You've got us all laughing as I said I'm going to press record in 3, 2, 1, and then probably didn't press record. Welcome to Chinwag Romance Chats, a weekly YouTube series where I'll be discussing everything romance and romance adjacent with various guests. Expect laughter, flailing about our favourite genre, and general chaos. These are partly to feed my ADHD need for constant stimulation, so please don't expect any fancy editing. This is us at our rawest and most chaotic. Hello everyone, welcome this week. This week I have with me 4 of the 6 authors in the Making Her List Sapphic Kinky Christmas anthology that I helped organise this year. So everyone knows me, I'm Ali Williams, I use she, her pronouns. Take it away, Amity.
I am Amity Malcom, also she, her pronouns. I am currently living outside of Washington, D.C. with my wife, my dog, who is 16, deaf, blind, cutest thing in the world, and 2 really, really misbehaving cats.
Oh, you're funny. That's going to be hard to follow. Eden, your turn.
I'm Eden Bradley, she, her pronouns, and I live in the middle of Pennsylvania with my girlfriend and our 2 completely absurd dogs, at least one of whom is undoubtedly going to bark their head off at some point during this video. So,
Fantastic.
good luck to us.
Okay. Leslie Ayla, she, her pronouns. I live in South Africa, as you can hear by the charming accent. My husband and I have 2 crazy kids, who coincidentally will probably pop up at some point, so be prepared. And then we have 2 very loud, very lovable dogs, one old and ornery and a little bit deaf, and the other one still in her puppy phase. So chaos is life.
And Stella?
I'm Stella Moore, she, her pronouns. I live in Alabama with my husband and our twin daughters and our cat, who is not around because she is spending her time outside hunting something. I don't know. Every now and then she comes inside, eats some food, and then she goes back out again, pretty much like our kids. So
I think I might be the only person without a pet. How absolutely absurd. As everyone
obviously you need a pet now.
No, don't let Abby hear. My girlfriend, who I live with here in Brighton in the UK, is obsessed with animals and keeps on trying to trick me into getting cats. And I'm like, wait till we have a bigger place. Somewhere with a bedroom with a door that closes, and then yes, we can. Also in the anthology is Siobhan Smile, who uses they, them pronouns, who unfortunately can't be with us here today, but they are wonderful and their book is so good. Cannot wait for everyone to read it. So yeah. I thought I'd bring us all together for general chaos and amusement. We had a whole plan of all of us doing a hear me out thing, and the only person who actually remembered to do it was Eden, because neuro spicy for the win. Bad memory, jeez. But yeah, to get us started, I pulled a card from the Believe in Your Own Magic deck, because I kind of feel like this project is very much a believe in your own magic, like working with New York Times bestseller, Eden Bradley, and like Stella, who's amazing, and Amity is a badass, and Leslie, who is absolutely killing it on all fronts. It kind of feels a little, I think all of us at one point or another during this anthology have had a little bit of imposter syndrome. So the Believe in Your Own Magic deck feels really important. And the card is Storm. Every hurricane comes to an end. And I feel like not a storm so much, but this has been a bit of a whirlwind, a bit of a hurricane organizing all of this. How have you guys found it?
PhD thesis in the middle of all of this.
We don't talk about my PhD thesis. I will cry. It's not worth it. Absolutely fucking not. Yes. How people found it?
A good excuse.
The writing of it was easy enough because I love going back to the characters. It was a blast to write it, and it was fun. It's always good to write Christmassy things. It makes me feel happy and fluffy is where I'm at. So the writing of it was good.
Leslie's story, by the way, is called The Merry Meet Cute, for those of you who haven't read the anthology yet.
Yeah. The organizing of it, I feel like I haven't done enough. But other than that, it's been good.
You've done plenty, you met deadlines, you did your edits, it's all good. I mean, I didn't meet the deadline that I set myself, so I'm living in the chaos mode that I am.
Hey, that's that hurricane you were just talking about. That card was perfect.
Oh. Stella, how about you? How have you found the whole experience?
I mean, life right now is just kind of a hurricane, like a complete whirlwind. So I was working on this story at the same time as like 2 others. So it's
How do you
That's always a
even?
great idea.
the whole process has just been kind of chaotic. And my story is kind of a prequel for a couple who shows up in another series. So I had to keep going back to 2 separate books to make sure that like I was fitting things in that fit these characters because they already exist. And then I'm like, okay. And then like in one of the books, I gave her a random pet name, and I was like, well crap, now I have to figure out how she gets this pet name. And I hadn't given it any thought when I gave her that pet name in the book. So I had to like, as I'm writing it, I'm like, I have no idea how she's gonna get this pet name. But it was one of Allie's like favorite moments. So.
I really liked it. Stella's story, by the way, is called Her Actually. Guys, we can say the names
Love
of the
that name.
stories. I'm just saying, wild concept.
What you mean we're supposed to promote our work? What's that?
Oh, I know. What?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Why
Like,
would we do
feels
that?
naughty to show people the cover now, like after we've been holding on to it for so long, and like that we've all been obsessing over it for months, and now it's like, oh, I'm actually showing it to people. I'm not supposed to show them this. Like, this is just for us. And now it's like, no, everybody can see this cover now.
Incredible cover.
I had a
Okay.
newsletter that went out the day before we did the cover reveal, and I almost didn't catch that Nikki had put our giveaway in it with the cover on it, and I almost sent it out, and then I was like, oh no. And then I like messaged Nikki. I was like, hey, just so you know, when you get this is why I took it out.
I love the cover so much, and the model is Emily Benning, shot by CJC Photography, Christopher John, and it's just like, which one? Stella, was it you that found the
Yes.
image? Like that image?
Yeah.
It's
And
just
Wolf
so
Sparrow, Teresa from Wolf Sparrow Press.
perfect. Plus, we just love Emily.
Yeah.
Oh, she's wonderful.
Oh yeah, and Emily and Christopher are both
Yes.
just amazing people.
Done a couple of months.
They're lovely. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, if I could put Emily on every single cover that I ever did for the rest of my life, I 100% would. Like,
Absolutely.
Oh, she is an
I love
absolute
her so
delight.
much.
I met her for the first time at Smut Lovers, and she was just an angel, really sweet. And then, yeah, Teresa did from All Sparrow Covers did the pulling everything together thing.
The cover
And
is
she,
just
oh, it's so
phenomenal.
cute.
It
Like,
really is.
Gorgeous.
and I love the colors and the little Christmas tree in the back. Like, it's
Yeah.
just, I love everything about that cover.
It's such a good title, which I think actually ended up being one of Teresa's suggestions, making her list. I was like, oh, I love that.
It's perfect.
So
Yeah, choosing titles was hard. There were so many options. So mine is She Came Upon a Midnight Clear, because there are so many Christmas carols with the word come or came in it. And so it was kind of between that and Oh Come All Ye Faithful. But I was like, okay, let's maybe not bring religion into it. But I mean, I couldn't resist. Like, I have another Christmas book called Getting Scrooged. So you gotta go with it, right?
absolutely, I was so delighted because like Eden's book, The Lovers, was the first book I ever read that had sapphic content in it. It was the first time I ever read a published book that had like people like me, and I was like, shit, this is what? And now I get to organize an anthology with Eden in it, and that was a slightly mind-blowing moment. And also, you should write more sapphic. Just saying. Yeah.
You know, if it sold better, I would, because I'm gay as fuck, and my girlfriend is like, I don't really want to read any of your male-female books. So yeah, if it sold better, I would. I had such a good time writing this book because so I'm from California, if you can't tell by the remnants of my Valley Girl accent that I can live, no matter how hard I try. But mostly, like, my home is Northern California, like at the foot of the wine country, and my ex was a dog behaviorist who managed a dog rescue, and I did many hours of volunteer work there and at another rescue in San Francisco. And so I put in like every Northern California lesbian trope. And also, yes, so it takes place at a dog rescue, which is, if people don't realize this, like most dog rescues in this country are run by lesbians, and most of the volunteers and staff are lesbians or bi women or queer women of some sort. And the donors are also almost all lesbians. And so I put in all of the like donor tropes, the Northern California, which is like there's the really rich ladies who wear the linen slacks and the cashmere sweaters to the Christmas party at the rescue. And then there's, you know, the lumberjack lesbians in their buffalo plaid, which I'm wearing today, even though I'm hardly lumberjack. But buffalo plaid is, you know, kind of our lesbian flags anyway. But and then I have like the group of the doulas and the midwives who are always wearing like the flowing silk kimonos and the beaded earrings. So they were all in this book. Also dogs, because you know you have to.
So basically you mean the entire cast of the original L Word?
Well, the original L Word, though, my problem with that is it's all femmes except for Shane, who some people think are butch. She's not butch, she's she's androgynous. And then Max, who is our only character there, who becomes a trans man. And just I don't know, we were pretty poorly represented generally, but I lived in LA. And one of the characters in L Word, Grace, who works for Max and kind of gets together with him, says, you know, she's down from the San Francisco Bay Area, moved to LA, and she's like, you know, female masculinity is not really admired here in LA. And it's true. Like, as a queer girl who is mostly attracted to butch or androgynous women, LA was really hard for me because I have dated a few femmes, I will say that, but for the most part, that's not my type. And so, yeah, so it was an accurate LA representation to some degree, but I love the new L Word Generation Q, where they've got Finley, who's somewhere,
and Carrie. Oh, sorry, getting off on a very gay tangent here.
Yes, Rosie O'Donnell, great killer butch representation. Thank you, Vilu. Someone is daring to walk by the house. Okay, great job. All right.
The little growl.
So sorry. I'm gonna forget what I said. Baby girl. My menopause brain is really.
I mean, we definitely have some butches in our and some mask. Oh, sorry, I missed that. I was going to say we definitely have some butches and some mask sapphics in our anthology. Like my story is called A Dyke for Christmas, and she wears a suit most of the time, including a waistcoat that has a load of like union and labor advertising on the back of it, and goes to this really fancy restaurant with it and takes it off and is like, oh, the fucking unions, because of course she is. I love Riley.
Your story was just phenomenal. Like, it's so rare in general to find a story that has a later in life couple, and to have someone who was in their 60s represented in romance. It was just phenomenal. The entire story was, I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
Guys.
Well, and like, I know you were a little nervous at first, like, you know, delving into the kinkier side of things with someone who was in that age range. And I think it was so important because it shows that just because you're a certain age doesn't mean you have to stop having fun and stop doing what you love. So like, I think that people are really going to resonate with that story.
It's cute, and she's a kitty girl, which I really like. And like one of the things that Riley, so it's Wendy and Riley, and they're the characters from Kink the Halls, which is a short sapphic, I think probably one of the first sapphic shorts they ever brought out about 2 years ago. And this is the rest of their story. That's how they get together, and this is the rest of it. But like in their sex scene, I have this bit where when Wendy gets on all fours, like Riley does like a massage thing on her back and gets her to move in certain ways to make sure that all her joints are moving and she's not going to seize up and it's not going to fuck her back up. You know, and those kinds of adjustments are kind of key, whether you're over 60, you need, you know, you're disabled or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm 63. I'm a kink educator and sex educator, and I'm still living it up. And but I have a chronic illness. And so, yeah, like I loved the representation because as a woman in my 60s, we become invisible to society at large, and particularly to anyone who's thinking in terms of sexuality or kinkiness, like as if we don't exist, or as if we get to a certain age and it's like, well, no, that we leave that behind. And I mean, some people do, that's fine for them. I don't. And I know a lot of kinky people in their 50s and 60s, a lot of people who are still out there getting it. And a lot of people,
I hope I'm still getting it when I'm 50 and 60. I'm going to be honest.
no reason not to. A lot of people honestly get hotter as they get older. Like, look at Charlize Theron. She hit 40 and it was like, ooh.
Gillian Anderson, excellent example.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes, love. I love that you have the rep of an older character and address some of those things that are a little different than from when younger people have sex. And one of the things I loved about Siobhan Smiles' book was Siobhan's character Leah is a trans woman. She's a little older, and she's okay, how do I say this? Because I don't want to give any spoilers. But the sex scenes, the way they handled writing those scenes was so beautifully done. Two of my exes were trans, both of them pre-op, and and sex is different, and each trans woman is gonna handle that differently emotionally as far as what they want and what they feel comfortable with. And Siobhan just did that. I'm very much afraid that people are not going to want to read the trans character, but I have to say, if you haven't, please do. Their trans representation is so beautifully done, and Leah is just a character that you just cannot help but love her. And I was so thrilled that we had some trans rep in this anthology. I think it was one
of the things that was really important to me when we were setting out and planning it, was that I wanted different representation. Like, the reason it's called a sapphic anthology is because the term sapphic is inclusive of non-binary people and trans women. Obviously, Eden, you have non-binary rep in your book as well. Also, we have both open and closed relationships in the anthology. Both Stella and Leslie's books have open relationships in them, which is really important because, like, ethical non-monogamy is a thing, and it is explored beautifully with the characters in your books. And then we've got some solid rom-com shit from Amity, which I love. Like, laugh out loud. I wish I were that fucking funny. Seriously. I wish I could write funny, and you can.
Thank you. I always tell Laura I'm funnier in my books than I am in real life, even though she will deny that until she's blue in the face. But I feel like my humor definitely comes across better in books than it does in real life.
Oh, I
Having
think,
met you in real life and having read your book, no, you're just as funny in real life as you are in your books. You're hilarious in both situations.
The thing is, though, like, it's always unintentional. Like, it just, like, my brain always is 2 steps ahead of my mouth, or like my mouth is always 2 steps ahead of my brain, rather. So it comes out and then I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that out loud. But by then everybody's laughing, so like it must be okay.
That's what I go with. Like, oh yeah, I'm definitely funny, intentionally funny every single time. It's totally on purpose. But also
I meant to be that way.
The anthology has lesbians, it has non-binary women, non-binary femmes, trans women, it has bisexual women, pan women, basically all the fucking queer sapphics one could possibly imagine, in a way that I think is really fun, because we're all sapphic, and I think that was really important for us to sort of like have in the anthology, and having that rep seems really important. And it's just so much fun editing. Like, we've got some delicious tropes. Like, Eden's already spoken about her every lesbian under the sun at a dog rescue center, and we've got the human Christmas tree in Stella's book, the both fake relationship and snowed in sort of forced proximity with Amity, and in Leslie's we've got a coffee shop and a bookshop. Like, coffee shop heroine and bookshop heroine falling in love. It's like the
Oh
ideal
my
romance deliciousness.
Yeah.
That's adorable, and now I have to go read it.
Yep.
I love Leslie's writing. Leslie's another one who is like laugh out loud funny.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
she had me, Leslie, what book was it that you had me read
Thick.
for you?
Thick.
Thick. That's right. And oh my God, it was so freaking funny.
Well, I'm gonna jump on the Amity train here and say that I don't mean for it to be as funny as it comes out. I just I mean, thick was a different thing. And we're not talking about selling thick or whatever, but thick was supposed to be punny and it's supposed to be cringe. But all of my writing, I don't feel like I'm particularly funny either. And it kind of just happens. And then I read it back and I'm like, maybe someone else took over. It wasn't me.
Well, I still for you, and that book was hysterical, like also really emotional. And that's like, I told Brianna Jameson, who was running Red Hot Romance at the time, who assigned me your book to edit. I was like, this woman is going to be a superstar. Like, she's so like, you hit, like, I laughed so many times. It got super emotional at points. I was like, Leslie Ayla's my new favorite. And I know every time that you're like, but it's true. It's true. You're so good.
I mean, and while we're singing everyone's praises, like Stella is an absolute fucking star. My God, that book. My comments the whole way down the side. And I think I did a lot of the editing for the anthology, and I do a lot of flailing in the comments. There's a lot of stuff like, right, we need to look at this, we need to look at this, and then things like, I love this, or pussies don't stare. We can't use the word stare with pussies, and
Yep.
like put all the links in up.
That was mine.
I wasn't gonna say, I should probably check that you were okay. But yeah, no, like it's been so much fun, and I think the heart is the thing that I really like, and also the opportunity to write sapphic. Like a lot of us, obviously Eden not so much. A lot of us write age play, and so where characters like daddy kink, mummy kink, etc. But MF sells significantly better usually, and MM sells pretty well, and I am fully sapphic these days. So like getting all these authors who I love, who I know are queer, the opportunity to come together and just write the loveliest, gayest shit was so much fun. Yeah.
I need to read out everyone else's stories. I read yours and I read Siobhan's because I edited them, but I definitely need to read everyone else's stories. Amity, I have not read you yet. How has that happened? Stella, you know you're like favorite authors. I don't
Because we're all always writing. We don't have time to read. It's always like, I just want like 2 months where I don't have to do anything, but I can sit in a room with my TBR and get through all of my friends' books that I want to read.
I'm literally going to be sitting by a pool for a week this month, November, in the Canary Islands.
Oh,
a fuck ton of books, and Abby's
Yeah.
like, we're not doing anything. We're just going to relax. We're going to sit by
Yeah.
the pool. We're going to drink.
Is
coffee,
it
we're gonna eat
is it
and
okay for me to say how much I hate you right now?
It's going to be
Same.
sunny as well. 'cause
More than a little jealous.
oh, it's going to be amazing. It's
Okay,
already
is it enough now? Please, you're rubbing it in. Move along.
I'm so excited. I genuinely cannot wait. I'm just going to sit and read and read and read because
And
I
speaking of
say
being
this-
jealous, I'm a little jealous that Amity hasn't read like mine and Leslie's books, because like the way that she's like, oh my God, this was amazing. I'm like, okay, well, Amity, now I need you to go read my book because I need
started yours last night.
reading them in order, obviously.
I am very praise driven, Amity. I'm gonna need you to help me out here.
Oh, but if we're talking about that, the human Christmas tree. I mean, put it this way, Stella. I read the entire book and then had to take a couple of moments to sit there and go, okay, I can't even look at Abby right now because this book is so good. And I have work to do. And if I look at Abby, I am not going to be able to concentrate.
Does somebody want to be a human Christmas tree, Sally?
Shut up, Eden. Shut up. We're not talking anymore.
I may have pictures of something very similar I'll share with you later.
Yeah, we're keeping that shit off YouTube. Just the delight. Like, I love the bit in Leslie's book where the characters meet for the first time. Like where they see each other for the first time. It's really cute. and really adorable. I'm not giving spoilers, but there's a club and it's really, really, really fucking cute. And I also like the fact that like there's a different exploration in quite a lot of the stories about dynamics, especially kinky dynamics and how they work. Like in some of them, it's sort of built into their relationship, it's core of who they are. In others, it's an exploration of what they want to be and who they want to be and who they want to be with each other. And also how that sort of comes out is quite interesting. Like, because what happens if you're both toppy or you're both subby? Like, how do you work those dynamics? How do you deal with being switchy? What happens if you're a stone top? A stone top, for viewers who don't know, is someone who doesn't necessarily want to be touched so much during sex or doesn't want to receive so much. That's I'm looking at Eden as the official sex educator amongst us.
Well, and then so there's top in kink terms, and then there's top in gay relationship terms or gay sexual dynamics, which can be men, women, whatever. Yeah, so the top in kink is the giver as opposed to the receiver, and the top in sex is also the giver as opposed to the receiver, although some tops will receive and others won't. So stone meaning, we also, in California anyway, call them touch me nots. So it's someone who wants to give. So if you're a pillow princess, a stone top is the partner for you. Like,
and it comes from, I'm just double checking the name because off the top of my head I can't remember how to say their surname. Stone Butch Blues is a book by Leslie Feinberg, which is where a lot like the term stone top kind of and stone book sort of gets really explored. It's an excellent book for those of you who are interested in kind of like different dynamics, especially in like queer relationships. But yeah,
I know a lot of butch lesbians, my girlfriend included, who read that book like in college or at a young age, and it really just like clarified for them, like, oh, this is who I am.
Like butch becomes as much of an identity as lesbian might do. It's a really interesting one. And also, like you mentioned the term pillow princess, I would like to shout out for all the pillow princesses in the world. They are not, it's not a bad thing. Like it used to get used as an insult as someone who's selfish, but actually it's not at all. Like different people have different needs and different wants. And if you want all the attention on you, that's totally okay. Just as a side. I've got no skin in the game at all myself.
Me, one of my besties is a pillow princess, and she, in her relationship, sometimes, you know, will reciprocate if the partner allows it, but the perfect match for her is a stone butch top. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I think there's nothing wrong with however you identify, whether it's pronouns or gender identity or your preferences in bed. Like it's all good. Like, and that's one of the things that I love about the diversity of queerness in this anthology is you get a little peek at this and a little peek at that. And for a lot of people, it's going to be the first peek. For a lot of people who are wondering if they're queer, it's going to be a first peek. And I think that, you know, reading this kind of stuff can really help you figure out where you fit on the identity spectrum. And also, I really want to say that can shift a lot over the years, because since I was like a kid, I considered myself to be bi. And then I dated my ex who was trans woman, and I was like, well, pan definitely fits better because it's more about the person than it is, like the gender doesn't matter to me. Yeah, it's non-binary, like it doesn't matter. And then I realized over time that I really was not interested in dating men anymore. And so I use queer as sort of an umbrella term because of my history, but I definitely identify as a lesbian. I mean, my last 6 relationships have been with women, butch and non-binary women. So, you know, it can change and morph over time. And that's actually something I would really like to write into a book.
You should totally do it. Also, I think that's right. Like I thought for years I was bisexual, and then I started dating my girlfriend. I'm like, oh, I'm really fucking gay. So now I use the term sapphic dyke, even though like I've had people go, but you don't look like a dyke. I'm like, let's use the word dyke as an expansive word. Like, again, another inclusive term. There are non-binary dykes, there are trans masc dykes, there are lesbian dykes, sapphic, bisexual. It covers everything.
Dykes, like, it's not a term I've applied often to myself, and it's something actually, because of conversations with you, where I've considered using that term more. Because when I was younger, in my queer community, a dyke was not just a gay woman, it was a butch woman. And so, but language evolves, and I love that it does. So
yeah, and one of the reasons I like it is because I'm 36. I grew up pretty Catholic, in a community where I didn't really know any other queer people at all. And so part of claiming that word dyke is making a conscious decision to link myself with the women and the sapphics who have gone before me. And also, I really love the fact that the word dyke is inextricably intertwined with activism, like dykes and bikes and fighting for rights. And that seems like a really important part of my queer identity, which is one of the reasons I've got it. But I mean, one of the things that is really important is, like, you are queer whether or not you're in a queer passing relationship. You can be in a straight passing relationship, you can be in a relationship with a man. It doesn't mean that you're any less sapphic, you're any less of a queer woman. And that's really, really important. I think it's one of those discussions that I think people need to have more. I'm going to open up the floor here, because I'm not in a relationship with a man anymore. I'm ABCD, anyone but cis dudes. It's the reality of the situation, really.
Oh my God. Every single one of us just cracking up at that was that's the moment of it right there. Just that's your teaser.
yeah, I love it.
I am one of those, queer woman in a relationship with a cis man, and every now and then, like I'll say something and Allie will be like, "Oh no, baby, you're queer as fuck."
Yeah, there was that time when you're like, "Oh, I'm not really very queer," and I was like, "What are you talking about? You're bi?" You're like, "Yeah, but I'm with a man." I was like, "Do you still think women are hot?" And you were like, "Yes." I was like, "Then you're queer." Like, that, don't understand. Of course you're queer. But then again, I think most of the world is a lot gayer than it realizes. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it's one of those things that it's hard to, like, adjust kind of your thinking, because, like, I've been with one woman, but not like in a relationship, just kind of like a one night stand kind of thing. So then, like, I go back and forth with, like, am I really queer, or do I just want to be? And I'm like, well, if I want to be, then I probably am.
High school, and you had never been with a woman because you'd always been in one monogamous relationship. It's not about, and there are asexual people and aromantic people who are queer, which is another good thing to address. But still, like, even if you had never touched a woman, it's the desire, whether it's romantic desire or sexual desire. I think that's what makes you queer. You don't, I mean, you can never.
I almost think that, like, it almost feels like, for me, like, appropriating a term that doesn't necessarily belong to me, because I'm very cognizant of the fact that there's, like, whole cultures and experiences and things like that go along with being a queer woman, and I'm like, do I have the right to say that? Because, like, I haven't had those experiences. I'm not, like, immersed in those cultures. And so, like, that's my, like, where I start to struggle, that I'm like, am I stepping into places I don't necessarily have a right to be when I say those things about myself?
You know, something that's really interesting, 2 years ago, I had a fairly shitty breakup with a fairly shitty guy. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, "I know that I'm bi, but it doesn't really feel like I'm bi. I haven't been or dated a woman in over 10 years. I'm not sure I can really call myself bisexual anymore." Fast forward 2 years, and I am the gayest of gay people. Those questions, I think, are one of the ones that we have all the time, especially in a world that's filled with biphobia, where a lot of people, both straight and queers, like question the validity of bisexuality as an identity. And the idea that just because of who you're with erases another side of you is difficult. And I think part of those fears, part of those worries about how you identify is what makes you queer. Just because you're not fighting for, queer rights every day on the corner of wherever, it doesn't make you any less queer. There's queer in a personal sense, as a personal identity, and there's queer as a political identity. And you can
Oh, I
decide,
like that.
there are two different kind of approaches to it. Like, and I talk about it in my PhD.
You said we were talking about your PhD, Allie.
Are we talking about now? Are we bringing
like-
it to the table?
And honestly,
yeah,
like,
go on.
I've been married twice. Both times I've been married to women. I still don't feel gay enough most days. Like, I still feel like I am, for some reason, on the outside of the queer community. So, like, I completely understand where you're coming from, Stella, because even as someone who's been in 2 monogamous queer relationships, I'm still like, well, am I really gay enough? Like, do I fit in here? Because, yeah, like, maybe there's a man out there that I could still find myself attracted to. Like, and that seems to feel like sometimes it negates the queerness of even being married to women. So, like, I totally feel where you're coming from with that. And I think that's one of the reasons why this anthology is really cool, of the bi rep, the pan rep, the people that are in open relationships, the trans rep. Like, that's why these stories in these anthologies are so important, because we're helping people like us who, no matter what our queer identity is or our queer experience, feel more valid. And I think that's what's most important about it.
I think I really appreciate the fact that our anthology makes it so that everybody knows that no matter what or how or as what you identify, there is some place for you to fit in. Like, you're not the outlier. You're not that different.
You belong.
Everybody belongs somewhere, and there's a wait, sorry, the English is I want to give you the Afrikaans saying, and that's not going to work. There's a lid for every pot. Like, everybody has their perfect fit, and somebody has more than one, open relationships and all that. And I love that we have that. I love that we've created that, and we've made this thing where we can give this to the world and show people that what you are feeling or what you are thinking is totally okay.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Because unfortunately, a lot of the gatekeeping comes from within the LGBTQ plus community. Like, one of my ex-girlfriends, this was 2016, she told me I could not use the term lesbian because of my history with men. I realized that for a long time. And then finally I was like, but it doesn't make sense to me, because really at this point, like, my only free pass card would be Lenny Kravitz. And that's not likely to happen. But I mean, I've dated no one but women for years, for over 10 years. But I think because I'm 63, so it wasn't that long ago that I stopped dating men. And the last women I dated, I was like, this isn't, like, emotionally, it just was not working for me. And also, sexually, that it was bad. It just, an identity of this very gay person who knew she was a lesbian since she was 12 years old, telling me that I couldn't use the term lesbian. So it was really just like in the last 5 years or so that I was like, fuck her. I am who I am, and nobody else gets to decide that. And that's something I think is really important for people to keep in mind. And like you, Amity, like, you've been married to women twice, and you're struggling with, like, am I gay enough? I mean, my girlfriend and I aren't married yet, but we own a home together. Am I gay enough? Like, it's something that I think, unless you're a gold star, there's always going to be a question. And so much of the influence for that kind of questioning comes from other people, comes from outside yourselves. And like, I haven't had those conversations with you, Leslie, but Stella, I mean, you're queer, honey.
But even
You are.
term gold star. Like, you get a
Yeah.
gold star if you do something really good. The idea that you are only a
Yeah.
gold star lesbian if
Yeah.
you've never been with a man. I mean, the thing is that a lot of queers in general, whether women, non-binary, men, don't have the option when they're growing up to be openly queer from the beginning. They
Yeah.
do date other people because they have to. Sometimes it's because the dating pool is really fucking small. Sometimes you don't meet queer people until you move to a different city. And sometimes you meet someone who is of the opposite sex, not the same sex, and you fall in love because they're a decent fucking human being and you love them. And that's
Yeah.
okay. It doesn't make you any less queer. And I think those who kind of gatekeep it, like, to be honest, it pisses me off a little bit.
Me too. It pisses me off a lot. And like, she had her own issues. And I think people who do the gatekeeping have their own issues. I feel like it's like some internalized homophobia, that they can't accept that everyone within the LGBTQ plus community belongs in the LGBTQ plus community. Like, and we don't get to tell anybody else how they identify. Like,
I think it often comes from fear as well, like a fear of the pressure, because there are pressures on people, everyone, from what society wants us to be. And I think one of the things that kind of makes you queer a little bit in a political sense is the making conscious decisions. There's something called, those viewers of you who are aware of things like relationship anarchy and stuff, there's something called the relationship escalator, and it's the idea that you step on this escalator, you meet someone, you fall in love, you get married, you have kids, you buy a house, you do all the things in the right order, you step on the relationship, and that's your life sorted. And they talk a lot about stepping off the relationship escalator, relationship anarchists who are often non-monogamous, not always, but often. But I think it's not just about stepping off the relationship escalator. It's about choosing for yourself what you want your life to be and having those options and making those decisions. And it may be that you meet someone, you fall in love with them, and it's a guy as a woman, and you're like, you know what? I love you. This is my happy ever after. I am happy with this. This is my choice. I think a lot of it is about choosing what your life is going to look like. And as a queer person, it may still look like marriage, kids, buying a house. That's totally okay. It's about like thinking about what we want from our lives. And I think even just by writing, me positioning this anthology as like a queer political act, but I think even by like just deciding like, yes, we're going to write this anthology together, it feels like a really important thing for us to do, like a really important, like a recognition of the queer sides of ourselves that we may not necessarily be able to explore in our day-to-day lives, or we may not want to explore in different ways. Like if people are monogamous, they don't necessarily want to be off fucking women if the love of their life is a guy. That's okay. I mean, it's not something I can identify with, but I have my woman, so I am good.
But like, also, like, I'm very, very monogamy wired. So no matter which relationship I've been in, whether it's with a man or a woman or whoever it's been with, if I fall in love with somebody, like the rest of the world kind of ceases to exist. I can look at an attractive person, like a star crush or somebody I meet and see that they're attractive, but I don't have the desire to be with anyone but my partner, my person. And so I just think it's all really valid. It's just all really valid. No one else gets to decide. And there's a spectrum. There's a spectrum of queerness, and like I said before, it can change, but nobody else gets to decide but you. And that's really what it comes down to.
And Allie mentioned, like we've all had some form of imposter syndrome while we were doing this anthology together. And that was where mine came in. Like when Allie first asked me to do it, I was like, are you sure you're asking the right person? Like,
Right? I had a moment of why me?
I did like, and like, not because like I have any questions about my writing, but like
No.
I don't like, I have one book with queer
Exactly.
characters. Sure, you want me? But I was so grateful too, because like it is like one of those sides of myself that I love exploring. So getting the chance to do that and have, you know, and I really did want to write Cordelia and Ivy's, like their how they first got together, their friends to, you know, I love a good friends to lovers romance. So like being able having an excuse to write that basically, because my schedule's so full that I was like, I really want to write this, but I don't have a reason to. And then Allie's like, hey, do you want to do this anthology? And I'm like, yes, and I know exactly what I want to do. Like, so
it's
I
nice
really
getting, I think a lot of us, like, it gave us the excuse to write something that has been sort of sitting on our mind for a while. Like, I know, Eden, you talked about wanting to write more sapphic, but it not necessarily working with your audience, and your audience not wanting to pick it up. And, you know, I think it's just fun, and Christmas is fun to write about. Like, my story is called A Dyke for Christmas because of course it is. And like, the original story is Kink the Halls, which was a sleeping with my ex's mum lesbian Christmas romance. That's how they meet. Riley owns a kink club. Wendy turns up after her divorce, and Riley's like, hi, you're my ex's mum. And Wendy's there in her cute little pink harness and realizes she doesn't want to be on her knees for anyone but Riley. And Riley's like, yes, 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 hi. There's gay panic. And it's a 5,000 word short story, and people really liked it. And I was like, oh, I kind of want to follow these characters some more. And then they turn up as Riley is Bex's best friend in my Rawhide Ranch story, Flogging Faith. So they make an appearance in Flogging Faith, and I was like, oh, I really want to keep writing these two. They're really fucking cute. And then spur of the moment was like, well, I have this anthology I proposed and no story to write for it, because that's how I operate. I have ideas, spur of the moment. Let's do this project when I have so many other things on my plate. But I'm so glad we all managed to make it through, because I know deadlines. I say deadlines were tight for everyone. No, everyone. I think I was the latest with my story, like a month late.
When you're in charge, you're allowed to be as late as you want to be.
Yeah. And I like cleared my schedule for editing. And so
I really appreciate
it was totally fine. Actually, I'm really glad that I got to edit you and Siobhan, because then I actually because that's the only time I have to read is if I'm editing, or like I mentor a couple of authors every year. So if it's an editing client, then I read. If I'm mentoring, then I read. Otherwise, it really doesn't happen. But I'm going to read this whole anthology because I need to read all your stories.
It is like the best bit of working with like authors. I think it's been one of my favorite things about organizing this is like, oh no, you guys have to send me your stories and I get to read them in advance. This is terrible. How will I cope? And I feel like the edits were pretty handy all round. People didn't seem to mind them. So yeah.
I'm just
No,
over here
honestly,
sitting
I
thinking,
loved
how
your
did people? Sorry, Stella, you go.
Oh, sorry, Leslie.
That's flying overhead.
You go.
No, I'm just over here thinking, how do people cope not reading? I would die. It's one of the things Nikki can punish me with, is taking away my reading, which is why I haven't missed a day.
Oh.
I cannot not read. Like, I have to read every single day. And I think I would die if I wasn't able to read every day.
I was very much like that before I started writing. And even when I first started in my career, I was very much like that. And then I hit a point, honestly, I'm going to get a little dark here, but when my dad died, I just got to a point where like I needed to know exactly what was going to happen in like everything that I either picked up to read, watch TV. Like I was having so much anxiety about just the world in general, because he died in the middle of the pandemic. So I had that pandemic anxiety. I had just, you know, losing my last living parent, like all of that. So I have a select few books that I will comfort read over and over and over again, and some of them are mine.
There's nothing wrong with
I know
that.
people that don't ever reread their own books. I love to reread my books. I think I'm great. So I rate what I
are.
So
Something up and you're like, shit, I wrote this. I'm good.
I do, seriously. I just reread my Lost River series and I'm like, God damn, I'm really good at that.
I can't reread too soon after I've written it, so editing sucks.
No, I did need like some space.
Yeah.
The last book in that series came out in May, and I just reread it like 2 months ago. Like, so I did need a little bit of space from it to be able to enjoy it. But I mean, like, so I'm still getting to where like I can read something that I don't know what's going to happen, because I'm just now getting to the point where I can really handle that anxiety and the angst. And
You want to
even though
know a
I'm like,
secret?
okay, sometimes I'm like, no, I need something like fluffy, like I'll read Golden because I know that there might be a little bit of angst, but mostly it's just gonna be fluffy, kinky fun. So
Well, this
like,
is then why you enjoyed Thick, because there's no angst.
yes,
It's
Thick
just
was
love.
Thick was no angst. It was so much fun, and so for me, that was a big part of why I stopped reading, because I just hit a point where like I just couldn't, my anxiety around the real world was so high that I couldn't handle anxiety in my media as well. So I had to, and it didn't help that like one of the first books that I picked up when I was like a couple months out from him passing, and I was like, all right, I want to start trying to like get back into reading, and all of a sudden I picked up a rom-com that people had raved about. And in like the first chapter of the rom-com, the entire premise of the story is that this guy's dad is dying of cancer.
Oh
And
no.
I was like, that would have been a nice thing to know.
This is
Going
why
into
we need
this
trigger
book.
warnings.
Right. I was like,
Yeah.
that's something that, and there's nothing in the blurb about like dealing with parental death or anything like that.
This
And
is like
literally
content
in the first
warnings
like,
matter.
yes,
Iconic.
literally like the first 5 pages, it's them visiting their father in the hospital while and I was like, so that set me back in reading anything new for a very long time.
I'm going to tell you guys a secret, which will then not be a secret anymore because this is going on YouTube. Laura has yelled at me several times in the past because I've gotten through stories and I've gotten to like the 80% mark, and they've just been wrapped up so nicely, but there's something big in it. So I just don't read the last 20%.
You just let them have their happily ever after.
80%. I don't want to know what's going to happen to tear them apart before they get back together at the end.
My mom,
I like where it ended.
I am busy.
my mom used to. Oh, sorry, Leslie.
Don't know you go.
She used to read the last chapter of every book that she read first. She had to read the last chapter, know that everything was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then she would go back to the beginning and read it. And like movies, she would ask me to like if I went to a movie that she hadn't seen yet, she'd be like, tell me everything that I was in my 20s before I realized that people don't like having movies spoiled for them. Because she was like the only person that I ever used to like really like she was my best friend. We talked about everything.
Absolutely.
So like I was so used to, I'd come home and I would just literally tell her a movie step by step by step and like everything that happened. But like I was in my 20s before somebody was like, well, now I don't have to go see the movie. You just spoiled everything for me. And I was like, I don't even know what you mean. Like, what are you talking about? This is the normal thing for people to just tell each other everything that happens in the movie.
Amity, you just turned your mic off.
Yes.
And she's back.
Oh, Leslie is about to be crowned with
Is the unicorn queen.
Yeah, at work we have a nice tradition where we try and make each other's birthday special. And when I got to work yesterday, my desk was made up and I had flowers and everything. And I had to wear the crown all day yesterday.
I love it. I love it.
That's a nice crown. You should wear it every day.
I know, it's perfect, isn't it?
I have
Okay,
this tiara that I wear at signings sometimes, and it is like,
Oh, I like that.
Oh,
it's
that's so
lovely.
cute.
I was just really worried about bringing it to Orlando, having it ruined in the flight, and like getting upset. But
I feel like I need one for when I'm writing. Like maybe it'll put me in the mood to write.
Oh, that sounds like a really good idea.
Right? Like I need like a drafting tiara.
Yes.
Is there something
I like
that
this
you want
idea.
to write? God, I wish I could have that. Like, I love writing. I hate getting
Stella.
started. It's both the demand avoidance from the autism
Yep.
and the executive dysfunction from the ADHD, and together,
It's horrible,
it's
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad.
I hadn't even thought about the demand avoidance thing, but like now that you say that, like the more I know somebody wants a book, the less I want to write it.
Yep.
And I really thought about that being the reason.
And then I do ridiculous things like writing 10,000 words in a day and breaking myself because that's sensible.
Well, my ADHD brain just refuses to finish any series, which is why I write
Mine too.
standalones only. But I have like 4, 5 series that all have like a couple of books out, and the only reason that I will have a complete series with Dirty Daddies is because Ray demanded 3 books, and now I have to give her 3 books because I'm too scared of Ray not to give her 3 books.
Valid.
Like it's the only way it's gonna happen because otherwise I just start things and then never finish them. Like it's a miracle that I'm still writing because I just start hobbies and like I crochet and I do diamond dotting and I cut like start 50 million hobbies and I never finish any of them except for this thing. And so yeah,
This
here
is
we are.
this is why I have 2 pen names, and basically I have, despite having 2 pen names, I have 2 worlds. I have a paranormal world and I have a contemporary world. All my contemporary books, whether they're written under Ali or Ellie, all feed into the same world. Like there are characters from Ellie books that turn up in Ali books and vice versa. Like that all feeds in. And then in the paranormal world, I've been really sneaky, and I tricked my brain. Is that it's called the God's Touch universe. Basically, the premise is that magic is leaking back into the world. The gods are coming back from behind the veil. And the way I trick my brain into getting really excited about a new book is I set up a new series. So I have at the moment 3 different mini series within it. Each of them deal with a different pantheon of gods. So every time I get bored or every time my brain doesn't want to work on something, I go, okay, I'll start a new pantheon. I'll pick up a new pantheon, start a new mini series. It's all in the same world. Technically, there's through all the books, but my brain sees it as separate, different projects and therefore doesn't get upset by it. Yes.
Interesting.
Trick my brain into all the sequel
Uh-huh. I love brain hacks like that.
I have learned that I can only like 3 to 4 books is my max for a series. 3 is my sweet spot. I've been doing 4 just because the longer series do really well. Although Charm City is only 3 and it has some of my best sell through, but like I've tried, like I've plotted out like 5, 6 book series, and then I always end up getting rid of books because I'm learning 3 to 4 is my max. It's just, that's my sweet spot. After that, I start to get bored about halfway through book 3. So if I, so anything more than that, yeah.
Zoe York says that 5 is the absolute sweet spot, but 3 is the minimum. But when I started Stuffy Hospital, what I did was I did a chart, like it's like a family chart, but for all the different characters. And I planned all the characters out from day one. I think there are like 11 stories in that series, and I worked out who all the different characters were who worked for the business so that I could make references to them the whole way through. And the nice thing about that is it's so fucking short. Those stories are maximum 18,000, minimum 5, I think. Possibly slightly less, like 5 to 18,000 words, and they're so snippety that I don't have time to get bored. But also,
I'm
like,
curious to see how my new pen name goes, my darker pen name, because I do have 6 books planned in that series, but there's no like, and I think part of the reason I start to get like where 3 to 4 is kind of my my max is because there's always some kind of like thread throughout the series that kind of ties all of the books together, and I'm not doing that with Sadie. Like the only thing that ties them together is the characters. I have the characters appear in the different books, and that's going to be the only thing that ties them together.
And the setting isn't the setting.
What was that?
And the
setting. Yeah, they all live on the same island and stuff. So I think that is going to be easier for me because each one is still kind of brand new, because I don't have to worry about going back and tying in those same elements from the plot, from whatever like storyline it is that's like the overarching storyline that kind of ties everything together. So I'm curious to see how that goes, because I do have 6 books planned for that, and I'm excited right now. I'm excited about all 6 books. So, and I kind of like, I've already introduced all of the characters. So I've kind of set myself up for where I have to write all 6 books.
Yeah, readers are going to be, where's so-and-so's book?
Exactly. Like there's a prologue where all 5 of the billionaires are already set up, like they're there. Yeah. And then there's like a 6th character that I'm like, I know that everybody is going to like they will unalive me if I don't write that particular characters. Once they meet him, they're going to be like,
The
when
expectation.
does that guy get a book?
I need you to write this series a little faster.
I am writing as fast as I can.
Yes, please.
It's my evening book that I write in the evenings when I
It's like those little snippets that I know, they're good. They're real good.
I've been tormenting Amity by sending her just like we have a group chat with her and like Murphy Wallace and a couple other people, and like I'll just send them like 3 sentences of something, and she and Murphy go feral every time, and I'm like, okay, I'm on the right track.
There's another new kink I didn't know I needed to add to the list. Just put a check mark next to it.
Oh,
Well, it's been really interesting for me because like it's deep age play, and I don't usually do deep age play, and I wanted an excuse to do it, and I don't really like consensual age play. I don't know why, like the deep age play that it's like if they want to be in diapers and all like that, like for some reason is a total turn off to me in the book. I like the humiliation aspect, so I'm like, I want them to be forced and hate every second of it. But I can't
Till
let that
suddenly
stop.
they don't.
I get that because like my favorite thing to write are my training house books, and it's consensual in the sense that they signed a slave contract, and I put the slave contract in the beginning of every book. But I mean, the stuff that it's like dark and they suffer, and that is my favorite thing to write. And that's why this book, this series is, I don't see an end in sight for this one. The only series I've ever gone over 3 books with was my Midnight Playground Vampire series, and I got to book 5, and I wrote myself into a corner because I created another faction of vampires who were mutated from Chernobyl, and there was going to have to be like a vampire war, and I don't write external conflict or that kind of external world building stuff, and so I was like, well, that series is done. But they were all really dark. And
I like how Eden is like, I literally just set myself up to write possibly the like most epic kinky vampire romance series ever.
Yeah.
And I hate it, so I'm not gonna do it. Like, I'm listening to this that like there's mutated vampires, there's gonna be a vampire war, and I know that there's like all of this kink, and like I wrote the blurbs for these books, and I don't really read vampire books, and I was like, this sounds great. And like now I'm like, wait, you had a chance to write a vampire war and you just left it on the table?
but it's a lot of work.
What
Oh my God, so much world. That sounds like so much world building, and I hate. That's why I don't write fantasy. I would write fantasy if I could, but like the world building is so.
Well, let's take it one step further, right? You hate the world building, and my mom reads my books, which is just a whole completely different mindfuck. And she told me like she has one critique for me, and I was like, okay, here goes. Like, what is it? And she was like, could you just describe the characters? And I'm like, why? Why am I going to describe the characters? I don't want to know what they look like. Why do you want to know what they look like? You make it up in your head.
I'm the same. I can't.
She's not visual. She says she doesn't see, and she just finds it distracting. And
but that's how I am. I can't. You could describe somebody on page down to like the shape of their nose and like that they're missing a tooth or what, and I could not picture that person in my head.
No.
If you gave me a picture of them, like your inspiration picture, I can see that in my head once I already have the picture, but I cannot just create pictures and images and out of whole cloth in my head. So I had to force myself to start describing characters more in my books because I realized that a lot of readers actually do want those descriptions, and they want to know what at least the hero looks like.
The only reason I know what my characters look like is because they have book covers. That's the only way. That's the only, and like people go, well, what do they look like? I'm like, well,
look at the cover.
Like, so I'm not the only one who starts out writing something and then you're like, blah, 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 blah. And they're green eyes. And then you go back to your note and you're like, okay, I guess this character has green eyes. Like,
oh, 100%. I make them. And then like Golden read one of, I think it was when we were writing the Cherry Pop and Daddy series, and she read Lottie, and she was giving me like some critique. She's like, Okay, so we've known this character for like half a chapter now, and you're just now telling me she has blonde hair. Move that up to when we first meet her, and I'm like, but I don't like that's not important to me.
Yeah.
That's not.
Yeah.
I don't care that she has blonde hair when we first meet her. Do I care that she is a like super like not conservative politically, but very conservative, like grew up with rich parents, like
Yeah.
I care about that crap. I don't care about her hair color and eye color. I care
Right?
about what kind of person she
The,
is.
Like,
the only time I
on
care
the
is when
inside
the only time I
makes
care
you
about
the way
it is
you
when my
are.
character cares about it. So that's the point when I'm like, oh shit, okay, I need to know what they look like. Because if the person is looking at them and falling in love and go, oh my god, I'm obsessed with your hair, I'm like, shit, okay, they need to have hair color. What color do they have hair? Like,
Idiot.
pointing-
I know
pointing-
every.
it took writing a dike for Christmas for me to realize that like Riley has like a buzz cut and when he has long hair. I had written and released an entire book where I do not describe in anywhere what hair color they like, what their hair is like, until I wrote the sequel and was like, shit, I should probably know this by this point. Like this is a second release I have with them, the third time they're appearing, and I don't somehow have managed to avoid saying what they look like anywhere. I'm quite proud of that, to be fair. I like it.
I wrote Forbidden
process
Impulses, and I think I got up to like chapter 3, and I realized that FMC didn't have a name yet because it was written in her point of view. And I was like, oh crap. Okay, time to give her a name.
So I have a tendency to not name people until like the very end of a book.
you
So
feel like-
especially if it's a side character and like especially last names. So my entire book will be like Allie, and then it will just say Allie last name in all caps. So then, and then I go back and I fill in last names. I fill in names of like businesses. I fill in like pet names. The book that I just turned into Red Hot or to get that book for the Dirty Daddies Christmas anthology, one of the characters just had a baby and the baby's name was Carly Baby the entire book until I was editing, and then I was like, oh yeah, this baby needs a book. Plus the baby went from a he to a she like 3 different times in the book. So hopefully now she's a she the whole time.
Oh my God, it's not just me who
Because
finds stuff like that.
I wrote it that she had a boy, and then I was like, I don't want her to have a boy first. I want her to have a girl first because I don't give a fuck if any of these characters ever have any boys. Like, I want all of the girls all of the time.
I love it.
Like, no, she's gonna have a girl first. Like, it was literally this moment where I was like, is it anti-feminist for her to have a boy first? We're gonna give her a girl first.
No. And she can put cute little bows in her hair and
I have to, if there's a business, a restaurant or something, like I need to know like what kind of food is it? What is the name of the restaurant? Like I have to do research. Like I have this my Dangerous Romance series set in New Orleans. I had to do research about like where did each of the characters live in the city, and how long did it take to get from one house to the other, and how long does it take to get to the Kink Club, and how do you get to St. Louis Cemetery #1 where they have like one of the like I have to like get on Google Maps. I have to know every detail. Does he wear a watch? If she has a cat, what is the cat's name? I literally cannot continue writing until I decide on the name of the goddamn cat. Like I'm so anal.
Kitty.
Oh, wow. I
I
mean,
mean, I will literally just all caps. It will just be Kitty. And the bad thing about that is that sometimes I'll forget to add the name while I'm editing. And like I've had editors that come back and they're like, so is this person getting a last name or are we just leaving it as this? And I'm like,
I have a hack for you. Something you can use for that. I don't all caps because I did that. I use a triple hashtag. So if I need to fill in a detail, I put a triple hashtag and then whatever detail. So then when I'm done with the manuscript, I just search for a triple hashtag. And if anything
you know how
pops
long it would
up,
take me to figure out why I put a triple hashtag there?
No.
Literally
would
be
put,
like Allie and then triple hashtag, and I'd be like, what the fuck is this about?
No. I put triple hashtag a last name, triple hashtag.
Oh,
Facebook,
okay. I see
triple
what you're saying. I
hashtag,
see what
yeah.
you're saying. I was like, if I just put a triple hashtag, like I would just stare at it for like 30 minutes and be like, what the fuck is this? What am I supposed Sorry, Allie. If you I got comfortable in the same. I was raised by a sailor, so sometimes that just
Wait, are you apologizing for
Seriously?
swearing?
Yes.
Oh, maybe.
But-
No, I
but-
fucking
but-
saw him 5 times already. No,
Okay, as long as you're okay with it, like
Okay, but Stella, are you serious? Was your dad a
Like, I
sailor?
use the word cunt as a term of endearment. Like, do not worry. You're fine.
But yeah, Eden, you remind me of Raisa because when we were writing Cherry Popping Daddies, she was the same way. Like, she's writing and she's like, and then they got on this interstate and drove north to blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Raisa, just say that they got on the highway. Nobody cares. Nobody needs to know all of this information. But she was the same way that and I'm just kind of like, as long as I have a general idea, although I do. I did have one time where when I was writing Noelle's Christmas Daddy, there's a scene
My
where
favorite.
there's a scene where they walk from the aquarium to his apartment. And like as I was writing it, I was like, shit. Are there even any apartments near the aquarium in Charleston? I was like, that seems like a thing that but this is also why I like to make up towns.
I have to be able to see places. I can't write if I can't see the room that the characters are in. Don't need to be able to see the characters. I give a fuck what they look like. But where it is, I need to be able to see it. Whether so if it's a pub in my head, like I build an image of a pub that's usually an amalgamation of a couple of different pubs. And so in my head, every time I open up now, I'm like, oh yes, I'm in this pub. I know what this pub looks like. This bedroom, I know what this bedroom looks like. This flat, like I have in my head all these different places, but no people. Who needs people? I mean,
well, so like I'm sitting there and I'm like, shit, are there even any apartments near the aquarium? So I look it up and there are apartments, but apparently it's in a very nice part of town. So they're very expensive apartments. So then I'm like in a group chat with people and I'm like, this dude's a firefighter. I need a reason for him to be able to afford a $2,000 a month apartment in Charleston, South Carolina. And I was like, I could just make him like, and then somebody was like, well, is his family rich? And I was like, his dad's a cop. No, his family's not rich. And then Ray's like, he could just be an influencer. And I was like, I love that so much. I love it. So that's the story of why Dominic is a firefighter and then also does firefighter videos on TikTok and is an influencer because I needed him to be able to afford a very expensive apartment.
I love the fact that you care about that detail. I would not have given a damn. I'd have just given him the apartment.
But that's why I don't try and get specific with stuff, because once I go down that rabbit hole, I'm down it. Like, okay, I had to figure out if he can afford it. If like, is there an apartment there? Okay, now can he afford the apartment? Okay, he can't afford the apartment. What can I do to make him afford the apartment? Because now it's stuck in my head that he has to live.
Okay, but wasn't that a fun rabbit hole? I mean,
but that's why I tried like my hardest to not to like write stuff that I'm like, don't have to care about the details, because if I start going down that research rabbit hole, I am never coming back out.
Yeah.
Like, I would never get anything done ever.
Well, setting seems like a good sort of thing to almost wrap up with, because I realize that we are over time now.
A little bit.
So, as we wrap up, I want to know, if you were going to use 2 or 3 tags to describe your story, what would they be? And your favorite thing about writing in this anthology. Eden, do you want to do Siobhan's as well, as you edited hers?
So, 2 or 3 what, tropes? Or
Tropes,
what?
like 2 or 3 like selling points. I mean, my favorite thing about hers is the fact that is the fact that they it's best friend's mum and the best friend is the matchmaker, right?
Yeah, I love that about Siobhan's book. And age gap, which is always, my girlfriend's 11 years younger than me. I always date younger. So yeah, so I love a good age gap.
Love that. And what about yours?
And the trans rep is beautifully done in Siobhan's book.
And for yours, what would you like for us to know about your booking?
Yeah. So classic, lesbians running a dog rescue. So let's see. My one of my characters, Drew, is sort of on the border of non-binary and androgynous. And I always appreciate a little gender play, a little gender queerness, a little fluidity and identity. So that's big for me. And then also Drew is Evie's ex-roommate's ex-girlfriend. And they had a Christmas kiss 6 years before, and then they run into each other again on Christmas at a Christmas party. So yeah, there's that sort of they both thought it was unrequited love, and yeah, just like Christmas magic, your dreams come true.
Christmas magic. I love that. Amity, how about you?
I would say probably the fake dating. This is the first time I've really written fake dating, and it was a lot of fun. It's just a lighthearted kind of rom-com-y Christmassy feel. It's very low angst. I usually write low angst, but this one's probably even less angst than most of the low angst. And just feel good holiday vibes. And I think that really was kind of all of our selling points for this, and kind of working together and just creating something that was going to be sapphic and beautiful and a great way to celebrate the holidays and celebrate the love of sapphic romance.
And I love the fact that your Evie is like chaotic as fuck.
Oh, she's so chaotic.
And just super, like, she wears like vintage clothes and she's so short and cute.
Yeah.
And, like, this sunshiny thing, and she loses her job and has to get basically gets a job to pretend to be someone's girlfriend for the holidays. And when she's looking at the person, she thinks it's the guy, and when she realizes it's the girl in the photo, she loses her mind and has like this whole like a toaster oven relationship, like a gay
Absolutely. My favorite line, one of my favorite lines in the entire book, is during her first meet and greet with the person that she gets into the relationship with. She says, I've never actually had a relationship with a woman before, but like I've always wanted to kiss the pretty barista at the coffee shop down the street. And Frankie's internal dialogue is like, she laughs because she knows the hold that a pretty girl can hold over any queer person, no matter how long you've been part of the community. And I was like, that kind of just explains it.
And speaking of gay panic, that feels like a perfect segue to Leslie, who has a delightful amount of gay panic in her book.
I didn't even realize I did. Honestly, I guess it's because I kind of put a fair bit of myself in there. I don't know. And then Fluffy, it's fluffy as fuck, and it's opposites attract. I've got our bookworm who like hides away in the corner, the wallflower, who falls head over heels in lust and love with the party girl who's out there and just vibrant. Yeah.
Gorgeous.
And it's well, it's contempt, I know, but it's fated. They are true loves. They were meant to be together.
That's really lovely. And Stella, with your human Christmas tree.
My human Christmas tree. I feel like that is one of the big selling points, is the human Christmas tree. Because I've had a couple people who are like, "What do you mean human Christmas tree?" And I'm like, "You have to read the book and find out how she did a human Christmas tree." The one the one TikTok sound that has been running through my head the entire time that I've written this book is, "Oh my God, they were roommates." So that's friends to lovers. They've been roommates for like a couple of years now, and now there's an inciting incident that pushes them to kind of like take that next step. And then there's some good old family trauma in there, because what are the holidays without family trauma?
Speaking of family trauma, my ex's sleeping with my ex's mum, where they end up just before Christmas. Wendy's daughter calls her and goes, "Let's do Christmas together." And Wendy's like, "But I'm doing it with my girlfriend, who is your ex-girlfriend." And oh shit. So they all end up in a restaurant together having a deconstructed roast dinner, which is just a fucking travesty. And everything goes slightly wrong. And it's not a getting together romance because they're already together, but it's a what happens next? Like what happens when you have this night with your ex's mum? Like, what the fuck happens next? How do you develop a relationship? Can you? And it's all about that. And also having really kinky kitty girl sex while your best friend's sleeping in your spare bedroom.
How is the least? My story, I think, is the least kinky, and I don't even know.
Eden, you have sex scene after sex scene after sex scene. Like there's a lot of sex in your book. Like you've got at least 3 or 4 like fully kinky sex scenes.
Oh yeah, but lots of fucking, but there's just a little spanking, and it's like then you look at my training house stuff where there's like somebody's being, fisted or anally.
Don't downplay the kink in your book. The thing is, there's also like kink as a spectrum. Like not everyone wants to, like a cat.
It's just it's kind of off brand for me. But holiday stories, I get the warm fuzzy, and other than Christmas with Christopher, which is the most unspeakably viciously kinky book ever, which has no story arc. Don't read that unless you've read the other Training House books, because it's just the characters getting together for a really hideously good time in Palm Springs. But yeah, I usually go for I'm getting more darker and more twisted all the time, but then a holiday story and all of a sudden it's fluffy me.
And you know what? I think that's kind of what we've all gone for. We've got kink, we've got a bit of trauma in there. Most of the characters, like at least someone's got some form of doubt about themselves. But it is fluffy. There are happily ever afters or happily for nows, and it is just generally a good sapphic time. And I feel
but you can also have just a little spanky in the bedroom and have a happily ever after. You can make someone a human Christmas tree and have a happily ever after. I love that.
Exactly. And I think that is the perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for joining.
I do think that Amity and I need to show everybody our shirts.
Oh, yes.
Because Amity's is hilarious and so is mine.
I like them.
I like them real thick and sprucey.
Holly
I need
jolly.
the holly jolly Christmas next year.
Christmas with my Santa shirt.
Found a
Christmas shop.
That's very on brand for you.
Well, thank you so much for
Love
joining.
you all.
Hi, and thank you for organizing this.
Yeah, thanks.
It's been a lot of
Thank
fun.
you so much.
Thanks so much, guys.